Hello everyone. In this video, I wish to talk about attendance, specifically whether attendance should be made compulsory. Now, there is no doubt in my mind whether attendance is important or not, based on my experiences as an engineering student myself and also on the experiences as a faculty member here at IIT Kharagpur in the Mechanical Engineering Department. Over the past several years, there is no doubt in my mind that attendance is important. But see, there's a world of difference between thinking of something as important and imposing it as something which is compulsory. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take up several points which are often put forward as a justification for skipping classes, that is for poor attendance, points which are put forward as for poor attendance, and then I'm going to discuss that, and in the context of that I'm going to discuss whether it makes sense to use them uh, as justification for the opposite thing, which is making attendance compulsory. So the first point, which is sometimes put forward by many students, is that students are after all paying for their own education, so it should be left up to them whether they want to attend their classes or not. Yes, they are paying for their education, but see, education is not like a customer centric thing. Okay, because you are paying for your education certainly, but the universities or the colleges, they also have the responsibility, that charge of responsibility of training you, especially in a professional course like engineering or medicine, of certifying you as a graduate engineer. So that responsibility rests upon them. So if you think in such a black and white term that you are a customer, you have paid for it, you can do whatever you please. So also, the university reserves the right to, graduate you or not graduate you. And mind you, in many engineering colleges, it is very hard to not graduate. So it works both ways. So this is, I think, a rather flimsy argument. The next argument, which I think many teachers themselves feel, and I was also of this opinion for a long time, and I still believe it to a certain extent, is that students are after all adults. By the time that they come to college, they are about 18 years old, so they are adults. And as adults, like an 18-year-old person is qualified to vote, to elect representatives, to elect the prime minister, directly or indirectly. So does it not justify that these adults should be left with the decision to attend classes or not? Well, for a long time I thought that, but the flip side to it is that, you see, in order to vote, you do not need any special qualification. The only qualification that you need is to exist as a citizen, as an adult citizen. That's all there is to it. So conflating democracy with a professional training, I don't think it is right. You do need a special qualification to even enter these colleges, and sometimes it is so very hard. Take for an instance the JEE Advanced, the AIMS entrance examination. They are so very hard. So you need some very special qualification to even enter this place. So will you not need some special kind of effort to also graduate from these places and to actually absorb the training that these places wish to impart upon you? So I think this is also a somewhat flimsy argument. The next argument is something rather more important, which I want to discuss at length, is that some students say that they can actually manage their studies on their own, and they can actually perform decently in the examinations also on their own. So in this situation, does it even make sense to think about compulsory attendance? Well, first of all, if you are thinking that you are such a student that who can perform really well based on your own efforts without attending classes, I'm sorry to break it to you, but in all likelihood, you are deluding yourself. See, I've seen so many batches of students, both as a student myself as well as a faculty member now. I don't think it is necessarily true in the vast majority of the cases that students can perform well by not attending classes. That means by studying completely on their own. First of all, in our semester based uh, institutes, uh, the thing is that in most cases, at least it is true in the IITs and the NITs, the teachers who are teaching, they only it is they who set the question papers. So not attending these classes creates a severe disadvantage for you against performing well. This is true. Now, I also want to discuss in this context that over the past several years, I have seen students, and this is like a hardcore data for me, that students who have not attended classes, they have regularly not performed well. This is a fact. This is a hard fact. Okay. Many students delude themselves into thinking, perhaps after talking with their seniors, that somehow they can manage on their own, but ultimately the truth transpires that they cannot. Okay, and year after year it happens. And the unfortunate thing is that there are certain backlog students who year after year do not attend classes, they do not manage to perform well, and yet when they turn up next time, they perform, they do this again and again. So, see, whose loss is it? Are you not deluding yourself? So, it is in this circumstance which I think that perhaps in these cases at least, mandatory attendance, okay, imposing mandatory attendance could have been a way out. Perhaps if I had been a little less kind and maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I had imposed this criteria of mandatory attendance on certain students, they would not have gotten a, I mean, they should, I mean, I would have probably deregistered them, but that would have been a punishment for one time. The next time they would have been much more serious, and they would have been able to clear the examination the second time round. But that did not happen. I was kind to them, so quote unquote kind to them. Rather, the correct term is I was lax with them. And what ended up happening was that year after year, they have been not clearing the courses, and some of the students are still there in my course that I'm currently teaching. This is the unfortunate truth. Okay, so the junior students out there who are taking some quote unquote tips from your seniors, please take such tips with a severe pinch of salt. And on the flip side, yes, there are certain students who can manage to do kind of well even after not attending classes. This is a rare minority, and in my experiences over the past several years, I have seen a grand total of only one student, okay, only one student who has truly managed to excel despite not attending classes properly. Okay, so he was an exceptionally gifted student. He went on to do his higher studies in mathematics after shifting away from mechanical engineering. So this is an extremely special case, an outlier case. This is not an exemplary case. So uh, my feeling is that even in these circumstances, when the students can perform somewhat decently despite not attending classes, they are actually missing out on the true experience of the college education. Furthermore, it is not always just about marks. You see, I strongly believe that just because you have managed to score very well or decently, it does not mean that you have learned the course well. There are many instances where students who have who perhaps do not have a very strong examination temperament, they manage to learn the subject very deeply, but somehow because of the lack of their examination temperament, they do not end up scoring very well. Does it mean that they have not studied well? Does it mean that they have not learned and absorbed the coursework properly? It is not that. It is they who have actually learned properly after attending classes regularly, after absorbing the study material properly. It is they who have managed to study the work properly, the course material properly, as compared to students who maybe may have just by some fluke or because of some extraordinary examination temperament, they may have gotten by during the examination. It is also important to note that when you attend classes regularly, you expose yourself to the kind of sequential learning which the teacher through his experiences have forged together after many years of experiences. The way that he has sequenced his topics, the way that he can link the topics together, and he can also link the topics with certain topics of other subjects. So these are the kinds of things which you do not get exposed to if you do not attend the classes. So from this perspective, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that uh, attending classes is of extreme importance. But then on the flip side, all of this assumes that the teacher has done an extremely conscientious work out of his teaching. So if the teacher is is uh, is himself not putting in 100%, then none of this really applies. Okay, which brings us to the next point of the quality of teaching. So many students feel that if the quality of teaching were great, then students would automatically start attending classes. Automatically, uh, the class attendance would improve. Now, and nobody would have to force them to come to classes, which is sometimes what is happening. So forcing this is part of like threat of deregistration. The kinds of things we know as part of compulsory attendance, those kinds of things. So um, my personal feeling regarding this is a little bit mixed. So I have found that maybe around 20 years ago, if the teacher were really good, and when I'm saying these things, I have in my mind specific examples of teachers, what I've seen here at IIT Kharagpur. Uh, if the teacher were good, he really did not need to take attendance maybe 20 years ago. Okay, the class would be filled with students. Nowadays, it is not true. Actually, it is not even that. Even before the pandemic, I have seen that when I was not taking attendance, even then, some of my classes would be filled with students. But somehow, after the pandemic, things have changed. Maybe it is a pandemic effect, maybe it is just a coincidence of other factors coming into play. But this is no longer true. No matter how much effort I put, no matter how much effort I have seen, the same teacher who was a teacher during my time, so he was an absolutely fantastic teacher during my time, and his classes would be filled despite him not taking attendance. Nowadays, his classes, if he doesn't take attendance, it is not that full. Okay, it is a very poor percentage of attendance if he doesn't take the roll call. So, and in my class also it is the same, despite me putting a lot of honest effort into it. So maybe the motivation of the students have changed. The times have certainly changed, the motivation of the students have changed, and perhaps it is certainly true that the kind of things which students want to invest their time on, that has changed. So nowadays, perhaps they want to invest their time on certain things which are beyond the core engineering which we are trying to teach them, and they think that those things have a better, quote unquote better, and certainly an easier return of investment with a time scale which is much more attractive to them. So in these circumstances, I don't like it, but I can kind of see the justification of them not coming to class. But are they not hurting themselves? Because at the end of the day, when they go for some kind of um, training and placement interview, they will be judged to a certain extent based on the grade point average that they have managed to achieve. So first of all, they will not even be shortlisted if their grade point average is less. So again, I'm conflating the grade point average, their scoring, the ability to score, with their attendance. And this is, I have seen, I'm not just making it up. I've seen actually students who have not been attending classes faring poorly in the examinations. This is actually true for the vast majority of the students. So again and again, I'm saying that there is no doubt in my mind that higher attendance is directly linked to better grades, better performance, and better learning of the course material. But at the same time, as I have said earlier, a lot of it depends on the quality of teaching. Now, if an institute wishes to impose mandatory attendance, meaning that they wish to say that suppose there is not 75% attendance, then the student will be deregistered, or maybe 80% attendance, then the students will be deregistered, then if they are trying to impose such kind of harsh measures, then I think it is absolutely necessary for them to also ensure that the quality of teaching is of a really, really high grade. It cannot be that only such kinds of high, harsh, exacting standards are expected of the students, but there are no similar yardsticks to follow for the teachers. So it has to be a two-way street. This is my personal opinion. You cannot have it that you do not ensure that the quality of teaching is high. You do not there are no checks and balances on the part of the teachers, but they get to impose 75% attendance or 80% attendance arbitrarily. Then this is not right. Okay, so these are my mixed feelings regarding the subject, but as I am getting older, I am feeling that in some cases, um, I mean, the reality, of course, here at IIT Kharagpur, the reality is that it is left to the discretion of the teacher. So within this context, I am feeling that perhaps imposing these kinds of deregistrations when the attendance falls below, let's forget about 75%, 80%. Suppose if the student has not even attended 20% of the classes, I'm just flipping the percentages now. If the student has not been present for, if the student has been absent for uh, more than 80% of the classes, then I think there is some ground for me to deregister them. I'm still sitting on the fence regarding this, but this semester I'm seriously thinking that perhaps I will go for some deregistration for students who have less than 20% attendance. But I mean, it all depends on how they perform. If I see that even with such less percentage, they have managed to perform well, uh, or at least somewhat decently, I think I'll be okay. And I really hope that everyone out there, both the student community and the teacher community, will view attendance as something which is not to be imposed, or which is to be thought of as imposed upon them. Rather, they will think of this as an opportunity, attending classes as an opportunity of a better interaction and a better learning and teaching. So on this positive note, I will end this video. Thank you very much.